I first heard about Spiritfarer by watching Zero Punctuation, where Yahtzee boldly declared that the game made him cry. Now Yahtzee is quite literally a giant-ass man, and not only has he been reviewing games for almost 20 years now, meaning that he has seen it all, but he is also a well-established writer with 7 books to his name and someone quite familiar with emotional manipulation. While by no means, unless we are talking about my penis, could I call myself a giant. I am an ass of a man, old and cynical, so yeah, I immediately got curious to check out Spiritfarer just to see what makes this game so special to make an ogre like Mr. Croshaw wimp like a little wimp. Obviously, I want video games to make me feel something, other than Pirate's Remorse. That being said, I abhor misery simulators to my core. No, I'm not talking about the storytelling techniques that make you hate the main character, or the plots that happen to be sad, or uncomfortable with genuine depth. What I'm referring to are games that specifically revolve around and abuse human misfortune or circumstances to make their stories seem profound and thought-provoking. Games that exploit the most basic human emotions of fear, empathy, and relatability to make you feel bad or make some artistic statement. This is done deliberately more often than not. Since we tend to rate art based on how it affects us emotionally, it leaves the impression that the game is deeper or smarter than it is. It's also the most pedestrian way of appealing to human beings and gathering an audience and recognition. It's tiresome, exploitive, and insulting, done to get attention and profit. It's what talentless hags do when they desperately need you to like their creation, and it's what many game developers have been doing these past couple of years. All I know about Spiritfarer at the moment of writing this intro was that its central theme is that everyone you know is inevitably going to die. So is Spiritfarer a game that fits what I talked about earlier, or can it actually touch my jaded spirit like it has with Mr. Yahtzee, the guy who I tricked into pronouncing my name?
Vnugo.
And what does all of this have to do with Disco Elysium? Only one way to find out. Spiritfarer was released in August 2020 by Thunder Lotus Games, and they described it on their Steam page as a cozy management game about dying. So the game starts, actually, before it even starts, you're greeted by this interesting introduction segment where our main protagonist, Stella, meets with Charon, a well-known mythological being that guides souls to the afterlife across the River of Styx. Charon is retiring, so he explains the premise, which is for you to gather souls scattered across this world and do their bidding until it's time for them to finally accept their passing so you can bring them to the Everdoor and guide them to the other side. I have to say that this premise is genuinely unique, and the way Charon introduces you to the game is well written, poignant, and somewhat chilling. Oh yeah, and Stella is accompanied by her family cat Daffodil, which is one of the best names for a cat I have ever heard. So the game starts for real, and you realize that the game is essentially a farming and resource gathering and management game, akin to Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing. The visual design and art style are gorgeous, memorable, and striking. It's colorful, bright, and cute. I don't think it offers enough interesting locations, but everything is hand-drawn and beautiful to look at regardless, especially the animations. It's fun to jump around with Stella and watch characters move and emote. It's also joyful and cute. Collecting resources is like in any of these games. At first an interesting novelty, but gets repetitive and painfully slow pretty soon, depending on the level of your ADHD. The most that the game will ever ask from you mechanically is to jump or hold the button. It's somewhat unremarkable even compared to the other games of the same genre, and it's what 90% of these overwhelmingly positive reviews will acknowledge as well, but they insist it's the sacrifice well worth making in order to enjoy the soul-touching plot. In fact, everything is in service to the core theme and the message, which are conveyed through the game's atmosphere, metaphors, and gameplay to an extent, and an excruciating amount of dialogue. Well, monologues, since Stella is the silent protagonist. The basic progression is you encounter lost spirits that end up as passengers on your boat taking the form of cutesy animals. You fulfill their requests, which are mostly fetch quests, while feeding them and keeping them in a good mood. The game attempts to establish a connection between the main character and the lost souls through gameplay, where these characters teach the main mechanics or how to craft objects for further resource processing.
Very allegorical.
This really resonated with the fans, and I agree it's okay. Granny Hedgehog teaches you how to shear a sheep, so even when she is gone, you are supposed to think about her from time to time when you are gathering wool. Although I'm not so sure that people usually equate their lost loved ones with chores and housework. My grandma taught me how to do laundry, but I don't think about her every time I do laundry. Anyway, as I said, you will learn about these characters through overly long, overly written monologues where they expose their personalities and backgrounds. Sometimes straightforward, sometimes in a cryptic, metaphorical way. I prefer silent protagonists over the speaking ones, but in this game, it genuinely detracts from the experience because every time you end up in the conversation, these characters talk and talk to no end, which will genuinely test your patience. It's pretty obvious that they wanted to have it both ways. On the one hand, to make players care about Stella's story, and on the other hand, to see themselves and the people they know in Stella and the characters she cares for. That's not important now though. I know it may seem like I'm in a rush to get over the mechanics and talk about the story, and that is kinda correct. This is just my opinion, but I really dislike the gameplay of this game. The story, progression, and gameplay should be like a good marriage. They should complement and complement each other. In the case of Spiritfarer, they hinder each other far too often, which, to be fair, is exactly like a marriage, but a bad one. It's like the story is the hostage of the gameplay, which is good looking but boring, restrictive, and somewhat dated. Yeah, I know that's a bit harsh. There are a lot of people who enjoy these types of games and find them relaxing, so I guess if you are one of them, more power to you. My intention was never to do a classic review of Spiritfarer. This video is about emotional manipulation, so I felt like this game could help out with that. Spiritfarer boasts as a game about dying. It's a story about Stella, a palliative care nurse who is dying from cancer and in her last moments hallucinates all the people that were meaningful in her life and they're passing away. While helping others and saying goodbye to them, she is slowly coming to terms with her own death until she is finally ready to cross to the other side herself. On the surface, this seems quite relatable and touching. Although the gameplay was never meant for me, I understand its meta-meaning and it does poetically evoke some emotions that an idealistic palliative care nurse might feel at some point. The boat and everything that ends up on it is a decent metaphor for how other people affect us and what they leave behind. Great artistic work can be like a Rorschach test, reflecting the viewer's perception and revealing insight into their personality and psyche. For some people, this game is a cute and comfy adventure where they cook meals and jump around, fearing the inevitable. For others, being a palliative care nurse is a chore and they are anxiously waiting for it to be over. This game made me feel like a callous bastard at times, which is cool. I can't say I was especially connected to or interested in any of the characters except the uncle and lions, and that's mostly because their stories felt the most realistic and least manipulative out of all of these. The uncle is a cheerful frog that fixes things around and likes to help you and teach you stuff. He is the fan favorite because almost everyone has had someone like him in their family. Lions are this cute, quirky couple of old people who were like grandparents to Stella. He cheated on her, but she loves him regardless, and he loves her, and love is blind, and blah 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 blah. At least their stories felt natural and human and were not examples of a purposeful tear-jerking scenario. Unfortunately, every other character is usually overwritten and unrelatable to the point of face palming and has this huge sign on their head that says, "This character had it rough, please feel something." Let me show you what I mean. The first character you meet is your childhood friend Gwen. She teaches you how to build and use the launch. Her story is as follows, and mind you, this is me digesting it for you. Like I said, Gwen and Stella are childhood friends. Gwen was like a big sister and she is this brilliant, strong and pragmatic woman who had a rebellious spirit, likely influenced by her difficult relationship with her father, who left her and her mother to live with his boyfriend when she was young. Gwen's smoking habit, picked up as a form of rebellion, ultimately led to her demise from lung cancer in her 40s. In her final days, she contemplated suicide but was ultimately persuaded by Stella to accept her fate. You know, Gwen, if you euthanize yourself, cancer will win. Instead, it's a lot better to suffer and die drugged than in pain in a hospital where I can just stand and helplessly watch you and probably cry. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but her backstory isn't relatable to me or anyone I ever met. But more importantly, you would think that the game is trying to say something about the euthanization issue with this character, but no. This is a very specific, movie-like contrived scenario, but okay, maybe I'm missing something, so meet Summer. Summer, raised on a Midwestern farm in a strict household, later became an agronomic engineer, working with large farming corporations where she developed breast cancer due to chemical exposure. Her illness prompted her to leave and seek healing, leading her to meet Rose, Stella's aunt, whom she fell in love with. During her recovery, Summer became interested in biodynamic farming and embraced spirituality, vowing to live each day in the glow of universal love. With Rose, she built a flourishing garden in a remote area. However, after Rose's passing, Summer struggled, especially with her cancer's return, ultimately passing away with Stella by her side. Summer's life inspired Stella to become a nurse. Nope, sorry, still movie I can't contrive. Why is this information even important? Death by an illness is already tragic and unfair. Why do you have to make this cause and effect awkward backstory? Also, how often do you hear about cancer that you can claim its cause with certainty? But fine, I am sure that someone on some planet can relate to this. It wasn't until Stanley, an 8-year-old boy, that I got seriously pissed off with the writer of this game. Stanley is a cheerful and curious passenger with a fondness for unusual requests. He is creative and passionate. He likes putting on plays, drawing, and conversing with his friend Jacob the Beetle. Stanley admires Captain Stella and aspires to be like her someday. Despite being easily disheartened by unkindness, he always manages to bounce back. He holds his father in high regard and feels he let his mother down by succumbing to his illness. Stanley grapples with his mortality, expressing fear of what lies ahead but is trying to be brave. He wishes he were a superhero so he can escape his fears and hopes his struggles are just a nightmare. In his final moments, he asks for his pet Beetle to be careful and expresses pride in being the main character of his play. Despite feeling cold and longing for his parents, he is grateful for Stella's presence. This is obviously heartbreaking and sad. This is an 8-year-old boy, by the way. I know, apparently they have this incredible emotional maturity and depth, or maybe just a skill you acquire when you are grappling with mortality, which is sometimes true, but not for an 8-year-old boy. Dear writer, have you ever met an 8-year-old boy? It wasn't depressing enough that he was just a kid? No, he was purposely written to be the most gentle, cutest, the most innocent, caring, creative and passionate human being on the planet who even in his dying moments cares for others. Who the hell wrote this and why? This bald guy, and I will tell you why. Because it's fucking sad and depressing, that's why. Because it hits in the feels, man. It evokes the most primal fear that human beings have, a loss of a child. So obviously everyone is gonna find this emotionally disturbing because it fucking is. These are just some examples. Other characters are more or less the same. I'm not saying they're unlikable. In fact, some interactions can be quite amusing, but that's not the point. Throughout the whole game, I kept thinking, what is this game trying to tell me? That dying of a terminal illness is sad, sometimes sudden, inevitable and depressing? That people are dying? That having someone around and then them being gone forever is again sad? That I'm gonna miss them? That I need to learn to let it go? Am I supposed to self-reflect and get scared of that? I don't wanna die, and I'm probably not dying already, and I assume that's the case with most of the players. So why do I need to suffer through 30 hours of mediocre, agonizingly slow gameplay for this message? Is it on purpose? Is it a metaphor? Why do you need such a complex metaphor for such an elementary statement? The subtitle of the game, What Will You Leave Behind, implies that the point of the game is the acceptance of death and cherishing friends. Everyone is dying, and it's the fact of life. You see, bro, if you get terminally ill at some point, you should remember the lesson Spiritfarer taught you. Death is inevitable. People die, so accept it and say goodbye. Perhaps the real Spiritfarer were friends we made all along. What will you leave behind? What a horrifying conundrum, but wait, hold on, I think I got this one. I could be wrong, but maybe it's different for everyone. When people pass away, they leave their friends, families, some kind of a legacy, memories and physical stuff. I don't need to experience 30 hours of doing chores for terminally ill people to get that message. I'm not saying that this game is shallow. It tries so hard to be deep. I'm saying that it uses real-life most basic fears and feelings to provoke some emotional reaction. Let me explain. The only time I felt sadness while playing this, real, genuine sadness, was when you were saying goodbye to the hedgehog grandma who was suffering from dementia. It's a beautiful, heart-wrenching scene. Music is emotional, and yeah, just like Yats, I was close to tearing up when they hugged because I never got to say goodbye to my grandma. Not that that will change anything. Our last words were just some random exchange. But I don't need this game to remind me of that. I am well aware of that fact. I dreamed a dream over and over and her voice is fading, but I still remember it. This game is about dying and saying goodbye. Let's talk about dying. Yes, it's devastating, unexpected, and in a literal and philosophical sense, inevitable. What do you leave behind? The saddest part is exactly what you leave behind. People who are gonna miss you, people who are gonna cry for you, people who are going to feel these intense negative emotions that are going to haunt them and change their lives completely. But it doesn't affect you, you are dead. For someone who has died, it's a binary situation. They are either in some better place, or there is nothing. It's over. No coming back, but no torment either. Those who are left behind are the ones who selfishly suffer. They are the ones truly affected by death. When someone you love passes away, it's like the floodgate has opened. First you feel loss, then you scream from the inside, then you rationalize, then you cry, and then the cycle repeats. Every few seconds, every few minutes, every few seconds, over and over again, and again, and again, and you feel this intense whirlwind of emotions that makes it hard to breathe, like some inseparable part of you died. This giant hole has opened in your heart and every possible negative thought is rushing out and you fight to contain it. For some it's easier because they have people in their lives to help them and share that loss. But what about those who are not so lucky? What does the game say to them? What if your only family member is gone? What if you're forced to live in that same house where you found them dead? What if you were trying to revive them while screaming out of your lungs, slapping their lifeless face, trying to wake them up? What if you have to walk through that same room every single day and see her favorite chair? What if you are burdened with baseless guilt because you didn't help her enough when you could or prevented that death somehow? What if you feel like a self-absorbed narcissist for feeling these emotions? Like a drama queen. Why are you emotional? You are not physically hurt. She is gone. You are still here, so don't make it about you. What's wrong with you? It's just that, it's tragic, but normal, it happens, it will go away, let it go. Everyone experienced that in their life at some point. Just accept it, say goodbye, you are a man, don't grieve in front of others. Don't appear weak. Your girlfriend saw you like that, so you know she's gonna leave you sooner or later, but you will get better, you will survive, the pain will go away, it's just that, just accept it, time heals everything, right? So time passes. Yeah, the agony is still there and sure you feel like the hole is closing, but it's slow and painful and hurts and you can't sleep. The memories, the smiling, jokes, dinners, trinkets, gifts, you recall every time you disappointed them. You close your eyes and flash back to those random last words. You vow to be better, to self-improve. You want them to live through you. Yet, it's a slow process. You want them to come back. It feels like they are just out of town, like they are gonna call. And time passes. It's her birthday, it's Christmas, it's New Year, holidays, it's your birthday. No more hugs, no more fights. Her chair is still there though. What about pictures that you are too afraid to even take a glance at? To meet their gaze. The most pleasant memories you had became the most horrifying ones. And time passes. You smile and you hang out with people. You joke, but it changed you. You became less tolerant. You became sensitive. You snap and lose control of your words for some small petty thing. You are yelling. You are lashing out at people who don't deserve it and are there for you. You can't be around sad people. You can't be around happy people. You hate yourself and the fact that you can't move on. You are stuck. You still can't sleep. And even when you sleep, there are dreams. You are together. She's in front of you. You're arguing. You're hugging. You wake up. It's aching and hurts and you want to cry, but you can't. And you feel bad that you can't because it's like you're betraying the memory of her somehow. You still struggle to find the purpose, coping, chasing something somehow because you know that's the only way. You want to do it for them because they will want you to move on. And eventually you get numb enough to smile for real and continue your life. And you never really let it go. It just hurts less. Obviously, Spiritfarer doesn't even attempt to address or tackle any of those complex feelings, and yes, it would be pathetic to do so, but you can't tiptoe around or completely ignore the biggest part of every death. Grief. In the Spiritfarer documentary, the writer spoke very eloquently about grief and how it affects us. But then they removed that aspect because the game was meant to be lighthearted and portray life as a bright thing. What do you mean, life? I thought this was a game about dying. How can you talk about death without saying anything about grief? You don't need to go overboard, but you have to at least acknowledge it in some way. In fact, when your passengers leave, they are never ever brought up again or from time to time. Nobody gets upset, angry, nobody is cursing. Where the hell is fear? Nobody is afraid of going into the unknown except the 8-year-old mushroom kid at the very end. At least have Stella wipe her eyes when she enters their house or something. I guess there's furniture to remind you, wow. Maybe the devs feared that showing a real, raw emotional process would be darker than an 8-year-old kid disappointing his mom by dying. Poking at memories and emotional trauma without confronting emotions that come from grief makes what you did with Stanley borderline evil. Oh god, and the whole palliative care thing trivializes the situation that says nothing about real people in these horrible real-life circumstances where they are stuck with caring, feeding, changing diapers and washing their loved ones who are unable to take care of themselves, sometimes for years, watching them slowly wither away due to cancer. It says nothing about the toll it takes on the caretaker, the sacrifices they make, the resentment that they subconsciously build, the impotence, the fear, the anticipation, false hope for a miracle. And these are the only people who actually get to say goodbye. Why not make the protagonist just some sweet old lady who lost friends and family due to natural causes and maybe an illness, instead of this superstar, perfect, unrealistic and unrelatable hospital nurse who was just so kind and gentle that she felt the calling from inside her achy breaky heart to care for these terminally ill people until God infected her with tyranny. I met some palliative care nurses and trust me, they're not really in love with what they do or their patients. What's funny is, I'm pretty sure somebody pointed this out, so they made a DLC character to address what I was just talking about. Jackie is a nurse who hates his job and patients. It could be a statement on how mentally taxing this job is, but it's implied that he already had mental issues and childhood trauma. He gets fired and dies in a traffic accident. So I'm sorry, my hairless bro. Close, but not quite, cause A, he's not a civilian, B, it's a DLC character who only made the game needlessly longer and thus worse, and C, Silent Hill 2 talked about this issue more than 20 years ago and said a lot more with a lot less. Granted, it at least feels like you were trying to say something with this character, so I'll give you that. But I can't fault the game for not doing what I wanted to be doing. All I can do is observe what's there. So is it really about dying? I guess, because there are people who were terminally ill but now they are dead, so you are helping each other come to terms with it. I don't know. I feel like it's really emotionally manipulative to have the spirit of a dead child who feels like he has disappointed his mother by dying. I do think it's too sappy to have your credits start with the names of people close to you who died. Maybe you made this game to honor those people and immortalize them somehow, but shut the f*** up. I honestly believe that using the cutesy art style animations to contrast and amplify something as depressing and serious as dying is also cheap. People react strongly to cuteness. It's psychological and manipulative. There's a reason why seeing Bambi searching for his dead mother is so emotionally disturbing even for adults. Having said all of that, here comes the twist. I do believe that the devs wanted to make something that comes from the place of benevolence and they truly put their souls in it. I just think that their vision is misguided, but that's on them or me, whatever. Here is the most important part. For whatever reason, if you read comments online and user reviews of this game, you will get astounded by the amount of people who claim that this game helped them in some way and touched their souls somehow. It didn't work for me, but I'm happy for you. I know how it feels, so I'm not going to be an asshole and tear down completely something that gave these people some solace. Maybe I'm just too cynical or too dumb for it. We all cope differently, and if this game actually helped you in any way, it obviously has done something right and I'm glad. I don't think these people are delusional. Okay, maybe they are, but that's perfectly fine. Like I said, the work of art is supposed to make you feel something and see the projection of your soul in it. The bottom line is, yes, it is, by my definition, a misery simulator, but if it helps someone, I guess, well done. That's what psychological therapy is. Building a delusion that keeps you mentally safe until you get your life in order and you can move on. You don't see comments of people praising The Last of Us 2, helping them cope with the death of their loved ones. I just don't understand who this game is made for. Why would you play a game that could make you sad or emotionally disturbed? If I was a gaming journalist, I would never be able to recommend Spiritfarer in good faith to anyone. It's not a girly game, and I certainly wouldn't recommend it to those grieving, work of art or not, especially with adult short-based gameplay. I don't know, maybe I'm too old. Maybe it's because I remember when games like Shadow of the Colossus were hailed as an example of artistic achievement and when Adam Sandler used it to cope with the tragic death of his family. Because of all of the aforementioned, it's time to awkwardly segue into Disco Elysium, oddly a game about living despite a loss. I am not really fond of games that don't take advantage of the strengths of the medium. That being said, Disco Elysium is a masterpiece. Released in 2019, it's one of the rarely rightfully critically acclaimed games in recent history. It uses the skeleton of the old CRPG system and puts an interesting spin on it. The reason why I'm talking about it now is because if you were to Google something like emotionally heavy games, or games that made you cry, in the same thread people would mention both Spiritfarer and Disco Elysium. Just like Spiritfarer, it's an obnoxiously dialogue-heavy game with a lot of different characters, but with more than just one theme and plenty of various often comedic events. The characters in this game are talking way too much as well, but it's done and elevated to perfection by one of the best voice works when it comes to video games since maybe ever. I'm not exaggerating at all. Every single voice is distinct and has personality and a remarkable sense of presence.
How curious. Why is that, Detective?
Awkwardness washes over the conversation. The woman doesn't like this turn of events.
It also helps that in the director's cut version they use the previously earned money to fully voice everything that speaks.
There's an entire section devoted to cures for men who are struggling to perform their marital obligations.
Disco Inferno is also beautiful to look at, with a unique and instantly memorable art style. You start the game and right away you are hit in the feels when you see Harry's face.
Behold,
Whoever illustrated this is a master of his craft. This expression conveys so much before you even start the game. Just this expression is a work of art on its own. It's like the face of a man fully drained of every emotion, with an expression that conveys every single emotion there is to human existence. I sound like a broken record, but remember, real art can stir emotions and can reflect your soul. That's why I show this picture from time to time jokingly to people not involved in video games and ask them the question. At first glance it's obvious what it is, but still everyone has to pause and think before answering, and their answers always align with the type of people they are. Now obviously I'm not going to compare Disco Elysium to Spiritfarer as games on a technical level, cause you could argue it's not really fair. The differences in the size of teams, budgets, deadlines, not the same genre after all. However, Spiritfarer wanted to be an artsy game, a game that shakes humans' heart, deeply.
Shake human's heart, deeply.
A game that will make a meaningful statement and be of some personal and cultural importance. It's a game that explores a really heavy topic and has a lot to say through analogies, metaphors, and again, monologue. It wants you to stop and think. It wants to cause an emotional response. It wants to linger with you. So I think it's fair to look from that angle and say that Disco Elysium gloriously accomplishes all of the above. In Disco Elysium you play as a mentally and emotionally broken, eccentric, middle-aged detective who has accomplished one of the greatest feats that a human being can hope for. Due to drugs, exhaustion, partying, disco, hygiene, unbearable sadness, or some known or unknown supernatural event, he managed to completely erase his memory and personality and re-emerge as tabula rasa again. Like a newborn child. But Harry is not a child. He is a grown man whose actions and deeds affect people around him, and he must deal with the consequences of the person he was while trying to use this God-given amnesia and figure out what kind of person he wants to be. Will he gravitate toward his nature, a self-destructing, substance-abusing, self-loathing, quote-unquote lunatic, or re-emerge as something else? He is also on a murder case, trying to solve an important politically motivated murder in a place that's a powder keg waiting for a spark. To do this, he needs to help others and fully comprehend this mysterious new world he just got born into. It doesn't help that Harry is a highly intelligent, possibly crazy, eccentric and depressed man, and his past is fighting to come to the surface and crush him again, because of course the pain isn't gone, he just forgot about it. There's a lot going on, but you can understand why I appreciate the themes of this game a bit more than what's happening in Spiritfarer. Like I said before, death is a binary situation. Living is hard, making choices is difficult, making a difference, being a good person, good friend, good partner. Fighting against your nature so you can do the right thing, discerning the right and wrong, chasing dreams, goals and failing, disappointing people, all while sometimes dealing with a loss. This is the last time I'm bringing it up, but here we go again. Art, reflection, Rorschach test, emotions, blah 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 blah. Just like with the portrait of Harry, everyone will see something different and find something that especially appeals to them in this game. For some people, this is a game about various political ideals and ideologies. For some people, it's the murder mystery that stands out. For some, it's a hilarious dark humor comedy. For some, it's about introspection. And for some, it's a love story and a game about loss. It's all of the above, actually. Yes, of course, there was a woman, there always is. A lost love Dora, the high school sweetheart, his former fiancée. Sooner or later, Harry and the player have to face the truth, that he was a malfunctioning human being and that she left him.
Oh no, Funky baby, you stayed. It was the rest of it that left. Or you just stood there, with one hand on the bottle and the other on your dick.
It's implied that their relationship lasted for 12 years and that at some point she either aborted or lost their child. He dreams about her, and in his dream she is personified as Dolores Dye, the most famous female international political figure. You can interpret this how you want, but the important part is that when Dora left Harry, he kind of went crazy, or got crazier. Or it's just an act of a severely depressed man looking for a way to cope. We learned that his job took a toll on him. The stress and substance abuse made him unstable, violent and extremely sad. This sadness changed him, or brought up his real personality. There was also an economic factor and the fact that Dora was a middle-class girl while he was poor. Depending on Harry's skills at that point very late in the game, what she says push her away changes. However, she always expresses frustration at Harry's inability to talk like a normal person or how sad he got. He would get angry, he would smash things, he would scare her with emotional outbursts and crying. He would insult her, yet he loved her from the bottom of his soul. One amazing point that I saw someone has made is that each of the 4 political identities that Harry can take on in the game is caused not by his political beliefs, but by how he thinks that he could win his ex back or cope with it. If he thinks that she left him for someone wealthier, he could blame capitalism or conversely think he just needs to make more money. He might turn fascist and blame all women for his problems, or he could become a moralist to show that he is not unhinged and is actually extremely sane. The end dream sequence is arguably the heaviest and the saddest part of the game for many. Harry meets with his ex in his dream and she is incredibly cruel to him. It's raw and real and relatable when you understand that this is the dream he is having every single night. But this is a dream, so it's just his mind beating himself up even more as he is completely destroyed by regret, shame, guilt and failure. Every single crude thing she says is actually how he feels about himself. During this accidental phone call earlier in the game, she sounds gentle and is extremely patient with him despite their past.
Harry.
But it isn't impossible that she said at least something similar to this at some point. It's clear that maybe the girl isn't the only source of his personal struggle, but it is 100% the biggest. Despite erasing his own memory and being gifted this new beginning, in the end, these powerful feelings are still there. The weight of complex emotions and a true aching of a relatable human being are all over the game and perhaps express the best in Harry's need to sing a karaoke song. This scene is so well done that it deserves its own dissection video. From the still gentle panning over the half-interested crowd to the poignant lyrics and astounding voice delivery. This indescribable urge to sing is quite relatable. Sometimes it's just unbearable. You are so desperate you can't put it into real words, you need to let it out. The unexplained forces of the universe are asking you to sing. It's not about the song or meanings of the lyrics, it's about those suffocating heartbeats, the tremble caused by decisions and memories. While dying shouldn't be trivialized and compared to a broken heart, at its core it's still an immeasurable loss for some people. It shouldn't be comparable. A loved one is alive, but the pain is still pretty much real and strong, and the feeling of emptiness and weakness is almost the same. Sometimes even worse, and here is why. While tragic, natural death is inevitable. It's not your fault, it's a fact of life. Maybe it's God, maybe it's destiny. It's hard, but ultimately it is out of your hands and it happens. Knowing this is what eventually helps you get past it. However, losing someone you love for something you have done, being dumped, being left behind because you were not good enough, someone running away from you, what happens when you are the cause of your own misery? It's the same kind of agony but different kinds of feelings. Again, the whole opens and the self-destructive thoughts can't be controlled. It's regret, it's the feeling of inadequacy, the feeling of failing despite trying your best. Someone loved you, yet you ruined that. For loners, it's really hard to connect with someone. So when a person you admire finally tells you that she loves you, it makes you feel like you mean something. You're making someone smile, it's intoxicating, she inspires you, makes you think that there's more to you. You convince yourself that you need her cause her love has meaning. If the significant other admires you, maybe it means you are the one, but you are not, you're just you. So there's that feeling, everything feels like a lie. You know she's gonna leave you, she saw you at your worst. Having emotional breakdowns is just like Dora said, hard to watch and scary. She tries to grasp what you are going through, but she doesn't need that. She can do better with some carefree rich guy. When insecurity creeps in, it's over. You question everything. Something small escalates beyond reason and you push her away with your behavior. Then you plead for forgiveness. And she forgives you, but you can't forgive yourself, so it happens again. Eventually, everything shatters. You know she's waiting for an excuse, so you give her one. It's better for both if it's over, rather sooner than later. If you are already alone emotionally, what does it matter? But it does. You like her smile, her small hands, her scent, the way she holds a coffee cup. You were somebody important. You were hers. You had a chance for a family, now you're just older, jaded, without a purpose, bitter. You can't think sober. You can't sleep. And when you sleep, you dream. And when you dream, it's always the same one. You rationalize and rationalize, you want to blame her, but your nature won't let you. Then the holidays, anniversary, New Year, her birthday. You sent her flowers, but she never replied. You read her goodbye email again and again. She loves you so much, and you wonder, how did I fuck this up? I can get her back. Should I? Can I? No, you can't. And it's a perpetual cycle until you snap out of it. And Disco Elysium captures all of that. Disco Elysium will shake your heart.
Deeply.
It will make you laugh. It will make you contemplate. It will motivate you to read more, to learn more. It will make you think about people. It will linger with you. If you really care, you can dissect it to look for the social commentary. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case for years to come, and video games of the same genre will try to copy it. It will make you care for the characters because they seem real despite their comical quirks. It will make you aware that you need to sing a karaoke song. It will entertain and intrigue you. The more you give to it, the more you'll get from it because of its tremendous depth. And although, as a video game, gameplay-wise, it's nothing that remarkable, and it doesn't play to the strength of the medium, and the story is sometimes too much tell, not enough show, it's still uplifting with a bit of luck, persistence, and the right choices. It's possible to have at least somewhat happy resolution. It has multiple endings, but you choosing the canon one will actually be the reflection of the kind of person you are. Perhaps this new Harry is a changed man with a purpose in life. Perhaps we are all prisoners of our nature and he will go back to his self-destructive ways as soon as he can. Perhaps it's all her fault. Funny how a game that also has themes of loss, grief, sadness and whatnot never made me feel depressed. Underneath, it's a story about hope and compassion. Unlike Spiritfarer, Disco Elysium communicates how to get yourself out of a slump, how to piece yourself together after the shattering. It makes a lot more realistic message about growing up and moving on. The reason why Harry can win and have a genuine smile at the end is because of the purpose. Harry is lucky to have a meaningful job and Kim to guide him, a friend to rein him in, to remind him to focus on the purpose. As long as you can give yourself some goal, you can strive, you can improve and you can win. If you can find that one thing you actually enjoy and be good at it, you are already winning. It's cliché and simple and cringe, but it is the truth. The game tells you to hold on to your friends and that happiness is something you pursue and that it's never too late, and by addressing the grief, it teaches about human inner strength. You can be incredibly talented but dealt a shitty hand cause universe is random, but that doesn't mean you should just give up, which is a much more encouraging message than everyone you know is going to die, so remember to hug them while they're still alive. Being emotionally mature is knowing how to deal with loss and your inner demons without hurting people around you or yourself. And it's going to ache, it's an injustice. You're going to miss the people you lost. You are going to hate what you have become before you become something you admire. Or maybe you won't, maybe it's just an experiment. Universe creating a ruse to give you an excuse to sing a karaoke song. It's not about the song or the meanings of the lyrics. It's about those suffocating heartbeats, the tremble caused by wrong decisions and memories. It's what talentless hags do when they desperately need you to like their creation